If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema, you can get yourself a 5% discount. So what's up guys, it's Ash here and welcome back to a brand new video. I just want to apologise if this goes out a bit later than usual. I've just finished watching the Arsenal-Man United game and my god, what a game that was. But yeah, today we've got some 4-1-2-1-2 custom tactics and player instructions, the second variation, the one with the centre mids. But just before we get into today's video, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, as that does really help with the YouTube search algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics. For the defensive style, I like to use balance. This is the same for every formation I use. The reason being is it gives you the greatest control when you are defending. You get to press when you need to press and you're able to drop off when you need to, so it does give you greater control. It also stops your players getting as tired as quickly, and yeah, it does make you a better player if you can get used to balance. That being said, if you feel more comfortable using pressure tactics, that's absolutely fine, go ahead, but I do suggest trying to get used to balance if you can. Now moving on to the defensive width guys, because FIFA 23 is quite a narrow game where people primarily go through the middle and then they obviously do the occasional run down the wing and whatnot, you do want to have a lower width. So I have my defensive width on 42, so we're nice and compact in the middle so people can't just pass right through us, but we also have a bit of natural coverage of the wings, so if somebody does try and go down the wing, we're also able to reach out there and get the ball back, because sometimes if you have your width too low, it's just too easy for your opponent to run down the wing. So I do have it on 42 so we can cover the wings, but we primarily defend in a narrow way. Now moving on to depth, I've changed this since the last video. Now the reason for this is I like to use the 4-1-2-1-2 as a more aggressive formation, so I've started to use a more aggressive depth. Now I'm currently using 72. The reason for this is it has the automatic offside trap, so we can really catch our opponent out. The reason we have a higher depth is so we can win the ball back higher up the pitch to start quick counter attacks and get those easy goals, because that's what the 4-1-2-1-2 is good at, so we want to make the most out of that and have a higher depth. Now if this is too high for you, you can lower this to whatever you want, but I do suggest getting used to a higher depth with this formation, as it's going to create the best chances for you. Now moving on to build up play guys, this goes hand in hand with the high depth that we use, but I suggest using fast build up with this formation. The reason being is we have that higher depth so we can win the ball higher up the pitch, and when we use fast build up, when we get the ball back and we catch our opponent out, the fast build up option means our players are going to move a lot quicker to receive the ball, so we're going to have a lot more options than we would on balance. It allows us to really take our opponent by surprise and get those easy chances. Now again, if this is too quick for you, you can change this to balance, but it's completely up to you. I suggest using fast build up as you can get a lot of chances as a result, and it can be very easy to completely smash your opponent with it. Now moving on to chance creation guys, as always I suggest direct passing. The reason for this is direct passing is the only chance creation setting which will actually make your attackers move in the correct ways. If you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see the white dots, which are your attackers. They're constantly moving around to break through the defensive line. You can see like the movement there. If you look at something like balance, they're quite static. They don't really bother that back four at all, and it's very difficult to create chances. So I do very much suggest using direct passing if you can, because it does make it a lot easier to create those chances. Now moving on to the attacking width, because this is a more narrow formation, we want to use a more narrow width. That makes sense, right? So because it is a narrow formation, we want to use that narrow width. So we currently have this on 38. The reason for this is it goes quite well with the fast build-up setting. So by having a lower attacking width, our team's going to be closer together when we have the ball, which means those shorter passing options are going to be more frequent and there's going to be a lot more of them. So with fast build-up and a narrow width, we're able to quickly ping the ball between all of our players, and it becomes very easy to break the opponent down. If we have the width too high, our players are very far apart from each other, so the fast build-up setting doesn't really work, because our players are that far away from each other that the time it takes to pass the ball between the players, it's not really worth it. It doesn't work too well. So having a lower attacking width helps keep the play nice and concise, keep your team compact, and really get those passes going together. But again, if you want to up this width, it's completely up to you. Now moving on to 2 players in box, guys, I have this on 5. This is bang in the middle. The reason I do this is because obviously I want to get some players in the box for chances, but at the same time I don't want to overcommit my entire team. So by having this on 5, we do get some players into the box, but at the same time we're not as susceptible to counter attacks and things like that. So it is a very great balance. Now moving on to corners and free kicks, this one's down to preference, but at the moment I'm just using this on 1. The reason being is I rarely actually cross set pieces anymore, so it makes sense for me to have this on 1. So if I do lose the ball from taking it short, I have players back so we don't get counter attacked. But if you want to up this, that is completely up to you, but I'm currently just using this on 1. Now, moving on to the players you want to use, guys, because this is a 2-striker formation, you do actually have more variety and more choice in what you do. I always say when you have a 1-striker formation like the 4-2-3-1, you have to be more selective about who you use in the striker position, because you have to compensate for the fact that there's only 1 striker instead of 2, so you need to get like a very well-rounded player. In a 4-1-2-1-2, because we have 2 strikers, you can go for the balance between the 2 players. So what I like to do is I have a more clinical finisher in Robbie Keane, someone that I know is going to be able to finish those chances, a very clinical finisher. And then in the left striker position, I have more of a technical player, someone with the skills. So I use Di Maria to offer something different, and it gives me a nice balance between the 2 strikers, because if I just go for 2 finishers, the actual chemistry between the 2 strikers won't be that good, and it can be quite difficult to create chances. That being said, if you want to use 2 lengthy players, 2 explosive players, go right ahead, but I suggest going for a balance between your 2 strikers. Now, moving on to the cam, you just want to use a technical player here, somebody that is quick, somebody that's able to dribble, even shoot. Obviously you want them to be able to pass. You just need a very good fast attacking player, one that can move in this position. The 5-star weak foot would obviously be beneficial, but it's not like a super important requirement. Just go for a very technical player in this position. Now moving on to the right centre mid, guys, you want a box to box style player. So I'm currently using the World Cup Park Ji-sung. The reason for this is he's got very balanced stats. He's got good attacking, good defending, good pace, good everything really, and he's got that high work rate. The high work rate is so important for a box-to-box player because it gets the maximum contribution out of them. When you're attacking, the high attacking work rate means you're going to get the most out of him there. When you lose the ball, the high defensive work rate means he's going to be very quick to get back and defend. So it's very important you get a player with a high work rate in this position. But yeah, moving on to the CDM, you want a defensive player, obviously. You want a player that's going to sit back, make life difficult for your opponent, and somebody with very good defensive stats. The perfect work rate for this player is a medium high, but don't worry if you get a medium or a high. Go for a medium high if you can, but yeah, you just want to make sure this player has very good defensive stats. Now moving on to the left centre mid, I actually use an attacking player, but an added bonus you can get out of this player is a high work rate. So this Phil Foden's got very good attacking stats, and he's also got the high work rate. But if you can't get the high work rate there, just make sure you go for a more attacking player in this position, because he's going to contribute to the attack a lot. Now moving on to the fullbacks, I suggest going for a bit of a balance between them, but you can do what you want. I go for one more defensive fullback in Kyle Walker and one more attacking fullback in Hernandez, just so I have that balance in defense. But if you want to go for 2 attacking fullbacks or 2 defensive fullbacks, that is completely up to you. Now moving on to the centre backs and the goalkeeper, these just need to be as good as possible. I know my defense isn't that great at the moment, but I'm saving all my coins and packs for when the full team of the year is released, so that's why they're not the greatest. But yeah, just get these as good as you can possibly get them. Now, moving on to the player instructions, guys, on your more of a finisher striker, the more clinical one, the one that you want to really finish off those chances all the time, I suggest stay central and get in behind. The reason being is we don't need this player to drift off to the wings, as you'll see what we do with our fullbacks in a moment, and we want them to get in behind so they're always getting into those positions, they're always making those runs to receive the ball and finish off the chances. So on your more clinical player, stay central, get in behind. On your more technical player, I suggest stay central and mixed attack, because again, we want this player to stay central, we don't need him to drift off to the wings, and mixed attack works because we don't just want this player to run in behind. Sometimes we might want him to sit a little bit deeper so he could receive the ball. So let's say in this scenario, Di Maria drops a little bit deeper, he picks up the ball, Robbie Keane makes that run, Di Maria plays the ball to Robbie Keane. It just gives you a nice balance in attack. That being said, if you have like 2 clinical finisher strikers, strikers, ones that you both want to finish chances all the time, you could put them both on stay central, getting behind, but I just like to go for a bit of a balance. Now moving on to the cam, the only important instruction is come back on defense. The reason for this is going to make this formation defend in a 4-4-2. The reason we do this is because 4-4-2 is just one of the most defensively solid formations, so by putting Chiesa on comeback, he's actually going to come back to defend as a right mid. So Foden left mid, Vieira left centre mid, Park Ji-sung right centre mid, Chiesa right mid. It just makes it much better to defend, and then we leave everything else alone because we don't want to restrict him. Now on the box-to-box player, we actually have stay back while attacking and cover centre. The reason for this is we don't just want him to run off all the time into the attack. We have him on stay back while attacking, so even though he's a box-to-box player, we can choose when we go forward with him. So it does give us greater control, which is very important with this formation at times. And we have cover centre, so he defends as one of the centre mids in the 4-4-2 formation. We don't need this player on cover wing at all. Now moving on to the CDM, we have stay back while attacking and cover centre. The reason for this is we want him to stay back, we don't need him to go forward, and we want him to cover centre because he's going to defend as one of the centre mids, Park Ji-sung being the other one. So yeah, that's all we have on the CDM, quite self-explanatory. Now on the more attacking centre mid, like the one that we're using an attacker in, the left centre mid, we just leave on completely default settings, and the most important thing is having him on cover wing. The reason cover wing's important is because it's going to make him defend as a left mid in the 4-4-2. If we have him on cover centre, it completely messes it up, so we don't want that. We have him on cover wing, so he defends as a left mid. And the reason I said the high work rate is super cool is because when we lose the ball, he's going to be very quick to get back in that left mid position, and when we get the ball back, the high attacking work rate means he's going to be very quick to join the attack. So it does work quite well, guys. Now moving on to the fullbacks, I have them both on balance, attack and overlap. Now the reason for this is the 4-1-2-1-2 is obviously a very narrow formation, but sometimes you do desperately need extra width. If you just use the attack in that narrow style without the fullbacks, a lot of the time it's very difficult to actually create any chances. So we have both fullbacks on balance, attack and overlap, so they push forward and actually make the front two a front four, because it will be Hernandez, Di Maria, Keane and Walker. So it does work very well, guys. The overlap instruction means they're always going to add extra width instead of coming narrow, because we don't need any more narrow players, we need them to overlap. So both fullbacks, balance, attack and overlap, as it does give us greater attacking support. Like I said, this is a very aggressive setup, and if you guys still don't feel comfortable with this and you want them to stay back, you can do that, but I suggest putting them on balanced attack because otherwise it's very difficult to actually create any chances. But yeah, they are my custom tactics and player instructions for the 4-1-2-1-2. If you have enjoyed or found this useful, I would very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.